I'm going to take apart this old rocket stove hot water heater and replace this tank. The tank that's in this has deteriorated completely. There are holes in it, and it recently dumped its contents, basically. So I'm going to pull the tank, find out what happened to it, and maybe replace it with another tank. So the first thing I got to do is get into this plumbing and take all the extra plumbing off so that I can get the tank and the coil and everything out. I've got an access hatch back here. I pulled the hatch off so I can get at the plumbing from the back here to disconnect everything. Right here is my incoming water source to the system. I've got a cap that I can put on that so that I can turn the water back on and we can water our plants and use the washing machine outside while I'm fixing this. Turn the water back on again and see what happens. No apparent leakage. Disconnected all the plumbing, and what we have is this coil here, copper coil, inside of a steel tank, inside of a cob enclosure with a rocket stove to heat the whole thing up. So now what I gotta do is I gotta pull out that copper coil and look at what that tank looks like. Got the coil out. There's some fun green corrosion on it. But otherwise, it looks pretty good, held up. The tank, on the other hand, is chock full of holes. There's a big guy right there. You can't really see it in the light. I'll take this thing out of here and then we'll have a good look at it. But this thing's got some massive holes in it. It's toast. I had a solar panel on this at one point for hot water, but I've disconnected that now. So I don't think I'm going to put those back. I'm going to pull those out, but they're sticking straight through the cob. All right, well, trying to get this down here, this out with my trusty companion here, I screwed it up pretty good. So it's all bent up and stuck in a way that I'm not taking it out easy. So what to do next? This one unscrewed nice. I've tarped down below me to catch any drops. And now I'm going to free up this tank by getting some of the cob out from around it. Hoping I don't have to take too much off, just a little bit around it, so that I can slide it out. But I might actually have to take it down to like here or something. All right, here we go. Cob saw. Take an old saw, make big old ugly cartoon teeth on it, and then go for it. Well, the tank is free to move, but it's not coming up because their pipes in the back are stuck in the back down at the bottom. So I actually have to take off at least this back portion of cob to get that out. So I'm going to break out this back bit. There's one big chunk. Back here in the back. That's where I got the cob all out. There's a little pipe in there. Can't really see what's going on, but you can see that there's a big chamber there. Alright. I'm going to keep working at this. Get in here and inspect a little bit. There's a heat riser, where the heat riser comes up. And around it I had like a stand to put the tank on so heat would flow up and through and into the stand. And then down there is where the heat goes, where the exhaust goes after it's done heating everything up. You can see on the back wall where water coming out of the tank took off the plaster that we had back there. The plaster is a perlite clay. It's kind of an insulating mix, and we just plastered it on. So the piece here was made with angled adobe bricks. I just angled them in, mudded over them. Okay, so that's state of that. And then the back end of this I had to break off because the tank needed to pivot over the front of the lip here to get out. And the back end needed to be free, of the mud, so I broke the rest of this out to get it out. And you can see there's soot all over now. The tank had soot all over it, and I managed to sit myself up pretty good taking it out. So here's the tank, and it's pretty bad. It's really bad. I mean, see, there's the hole that blew through right there, completely through, dumped a lot of the contents of the tank. And looks like there's another hole right there that came through, and more working their way through over on this side. This thing's toast. Here's the tank that I took out. That's the one with the big glaring holes in it. And this here's the tank that it looks like I may be putting in. It's old and rusty. I got it out of the dump and took all the jacketing off of it. I'm gonna take off the fittings and replace them with plugs, and then cut this thing down to the same height as this, maybe a tiny bit higher. Got it cut off. Looks clean inside. Coil fit, please fit. Oh, looks like my coil's gonna fit, but just barely. Down inside this new tank. Have fun. Alright, I've got caps in, plugs in, and I'm filling the tank now. See if it'll hold water, or leak, whichever the case may be. So I'm checking the tank here. It's been sitting overnight, full of water, and there's no sign of leakage anyplace. So we're golden and ready to get to work. Now, since the chimney is at the lowest part of the system, it's at the very bottom of the system, I could pretty much just sweep all the debris that's inside the stove towards the chimney and then scoop it out of here. Alright, so now I got the dirt out of it. I got all the debris out. And you can see the layout a little better here. What I've got is a perlite clay riser down there. I insulated it with a perlite clay kind of plaster, and this is all sooted up. It's black now. But when the old tank blew, the water sprayed against the side of the inside here, and it took off the plaster, my little insulation plaster. So I'm going to replace that. I'm going to stick that back. And then I'm going to put the pot stand back on here and set up to put the tank in. I've got a bucket of perlite clay here from a different project that's left over. So I'll take this and I'm going to add to that. I'm going to add a little bit more clay slip to get it sticky again and turn it into a plaster-like consistency. Alright, so I'm going to make some clay slip. First things first, a little bit of water in the bucket. Always put a little water in the bucket first. If you put the dirt in the bucket first and then put water on top, usually it'll make a little clay cake at the bottom, and you won't be able to get it all out. You'll have like chunks and stuff stuck to the bottom of the barrel. So add your water first. Now I'm going to add up the dirt. I'm just tossing in rocks and roots and dirt, clay-rich dirt and all, and give it a spin. See the roots wind up on there? You just knock them loose or pull them loose and get on with it. Nice. I've overshot with the dirt a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit of water to bring it back to the right consistency. So when I dip my hand into it and shake off the rocks, I've got like a glove there And it's not going to just wipe right off. See, it's got enough clay slip so that it's sticky all over the place, right? Alright, that's the stuff. Now to make the clay slip a finer product, I'm going to put it through this fly screen here. Alright, I'm going to toss those rocks on. And rocks out. Now what I'm looking for is a sticky sort of plaster-like consistency. So I can take this mix and stick it on a wall and have it stay there. So it's not going to be quite as insulative as if it were drier, like a drier pack around a heat riser or something like that, which is what I do. This is wetter than I would use for a job like that by a bit, you know. I want to be able to stick this to a horizontal surface, which it might even need to be a little wetter yet. I don't know, I'll just take some slip up there. Soak the face with slip. I think that's pretty good. I don't try to get every last little bit of the clay out. You're not going to. You know, a lot of clay is going to stick to the rocks and aggregate and leaves and whatnot that's in your dirt. That's fine. So we got a plaster mix, and we got a little bit of clay slip to work with. Got that patch with the perlite clay plaster mix again, and there's some spots up underneath that I patched as well. Now it's time to put the pot stand back on. Oh, and I realized that it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt if I can't drain this tank. So I could put it in without a drain, but I think that would be a mistake. I'm going to run into a position where I'm sorry that I did that. So I'm going to put this guy on the side of the tank down low and pipe it out the bottom of my port in the back here. Out here. Here's the port in the back. So the drain pipe's going to come out of there. Here's the pot stand, or the tank stand. It's got these pieces of metal welded in. They stood up off the bottom a little bit. This will go in, and then the tank can sit on top of this. So for getting the pipe through, connected to the new tank, it's not lining up real easy. So looks like the tank stand isn't going down as far as it was before. You know, it's got dry cob on it, and stuff is falling into the crack where it came out, and it's non-round, so getting it to go back exactly the same way it came out is more trouble than it's worth. So what that means is that the tank sits a tiny bit higher. And because it sits a tiny bit higher, the pipe here, the pipe hole, doesn't line up anymore. So, or didn't line up anymore. So what I've done is I've cut a slot out of it. It used to be a round hole. Now it's a slot. So I'm hoping that I can get the pipe through easily, and then I'll just patch that up with some mud when I get it through. Here's my drain pipe, so I can drain the tank when I need to. The tank is sitting on top of the tank stand, which is down there. The heat riser down below, the heat comes straight up and hits the bottom of the tank, and then flows around the tank and up into this chamber. And because this chamber is so large, it acts like a bell chamber, which allows heat to go into a natural convective movement. So the hotter stuff tends to go to the top and hang out and lose its heat to the tank and to the sides. And then as it cools off, it goes down, finds the chimney exit, which is down there, and gets out. So only the coolest stuff in the system escapes. Here is my drainage system. Comes through the hatch, comes from above somewhere. There's no leaking there. You can see down here it's wet because when I dumped the tank between tests, I dumped it inside there. I'm going to use these adobe bricks. Putting adobes back on and then carving them in, basically. I pieced the bell back together again using adobe bricks and cobbing over them. I'll do a beauty pass later, but the bell's sealed in again. So an interesting development. It looks like the main valve coming into the building has now started to leak, and I've got to replace all this down here now, which is not related to the hot water heater. At least it wasn't related to the problem, but now we have a new problem. Alright, I got my valve back on again. Different kind of valve this time. It's a ball valve instead of the other type. It looks like it's not leaking. I'm not seeing any water coming out of that. Down there, nor up the pipe. So I can put my coil back on. That's the cold end coming in. It splits into two. One's a tank filler on a float ball, and then the other one goes into the coil. And actually, the one that goes through the coil, it goes through two coils, so that splits in two as well. And then the two coils come back up and connect to the hot outlet pipe, which goes on down into the various places. So there's the ball and the coil in there, and the coil's held up with wire. I've got copper straps holding the coil together, and I'm using stainless wire. I don't know, it seemed like stainless wire was the thing. Trying to keep electrolysis to a minimum, and I think electrolysis is happening in these tanks, or at least in the last tank. I think that's why it burned out so fast. And the stainless wire might be a part of that, but you know, dissimilar metals, you know, with a hot liquid in between, you're going to get electrolysis. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, nothing's leaking up here. This all looks clean. Ball has done its job. Tank's done filling. Well, I guess I gotta start a fire. It's 3:19 and I'm just now starting this fire. It's 3:22 and there's no smoke coming out of the chimney. Alright, here we are at 3:50. At 3:50, the wood's pretty much burned down, bottom of coals. I'm gonna refill it. Okay, I'll be back in a little bit to check on this. It's about 4:04, 4:05, and the first little wisps of steam, I suppose you could say, are coming off. A little bit of water vapor. It's getting warm enough to blow a little vapor off. It's 4:30 and this thing's hot. I'm gonna go take a shower. And an amazing view here at the shower too. This is gonna be great.